Earlier this week, I had an amazing day on Sarasota Bay when I took some friends out to target spotted sea trout. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything about how I target spotted sea trout to have a fantastic day on the water. Check it out. Hey guys, I'm Kevin with Kemp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. Well, just earlier this week, I had an amazing day on the water. I had my friends Jason and Devin out with their son Hunter. Hunter's 11 years old. I needed a fishing trip that was going to keep Hunter engaged, keep him excited about fishing. I needed nonstop action. And so what I thought I would do is go target sea trout on the flats in Sarasota Bay. And so this video is all about how we target sea trout in Southwest Florida. Guys, sea trout, I think, is an underrated game fish. Number one, they are plentiful in a lot of places. Most of the time, they can be affected by red tide and some other things. And so, but right now, they are plentiful in Sarasota Bay. Lots of fun to catch, good to eat, and they're not difficult to catch, right? So some of the other game fish that most people target, like redfish and snook, I think are much more difficult to catch. And so if you're gonna have kids on the boat, and you're off hunting for redfish, I think those kids are gonna get bored. Or if you've got to get your bait up into the mangroves and that kind of thing, you're going to constantly be, hung up on trees and things like that as the kids are casting. It's not going to be that fun of a time, especially for young kids. And so if you want to go and put kids on fish and have them catch constantly and have there be lots to see, we saw dolphins, sea turtles, manatees, stingrays, bonnethead sharks. We saw all kinds of stuff out there while we were fishing to keep the kids engaged. Man, sea trout fishing is the best. I absolutely love it. Not to say that, hunting down reds and snook and all that stuff isn't fun, because it is. But if you want to keep kids engaged and you want an easy day on the water of just going out there and catching, sea trout is where it's at. The first thing you got to do is decide where to fish. So for that, we're going to switch over to some map views here, and we're going to talk about where I chose to fish and why I chose to fish there. This is an aerial view of the northern end of Sarasota Bay. I really like fishing up here as there are excellent grass flats and the water's beautiful. There's always plenty of action, and you get to see all kinds of neat marine life like sea turtles and stingrays and manatees and sharks and all kinds of things. But this is primarily where I want to focus today. This is where we fished. We fished the northern end of Sarasota Bay just northwest of Long Bar, which you can see jutting out into the bay from the northern shore. So here's a zoomed in view from Google Earth, and as you can see, they stitch multiple aerial images together, which is why you get some kind of weird coloration sometimes. But that's okay, you can work through it, and as you zoom in, you can start to see really where the seagrass shows up, where those potholes are, where those exposed sand areas are. You can really kind of get a sense of where your grass is. That's that darker colored area. And that's pretty much where you want to fish. You want to fish over that grass, and you want to work an area that isn't too deep and isn't too shallow, maybe right on the edge of flowing water or that kind of thing, where you can get in there and find bait fish. And of course, where there's bait fish, there are predatory fish, which is exactly what you're going for when you're going for sea trout. And here's the area we specifically fished in this video. Primarily, we stayed on the outer edge of this grass flat where it was deeper. I typically find that sea trout are in deeper water than redfish and snook, at least on the flats, that you're really kind of looking for that 3 foot deep or deeper, maybe 3 to 6 feet. They can be shallower, and we did kind of venture up into 1.5 foot of water sometimes and did catch fish. But typically I find that the easiest way to catch sea trout is to hang out in the deeper flats towards the edge of the flat, towards the edge of the grass, where fish can ambush bait that's swimming by or flowing with the current or that kind of thing. And so we basically worked this entire flat all day. We didn't move to another spot at all. We stayed here the entire time, catching keeper after keeper after keeper. So this is what you're looking for. You're looking for the darker colored grassy areas on the flats, and you can use Google Earth to figure out where you want to fish before you go. Maybe come up with a couple of spots and then download the Google Earth app on your phone, and then that way you can refer to it when you're out on the water, especially if you don't have a GPS unit that shows you where the grass flats are. But really what you're looking for is anywhere between, I would say, 2 feet and 6 feet of water that has good grass. You're going to have sea trout. So now that you've seen where we're fishing, why don't you check out some of the action? Here it is. So by the time I started recording, we already had 6 keepers in the boat. So this was a really productive day on the flats. And as I was just swimming my bait along, Hunter yelled out that he had a fish. So it's time to go help him land. He did a great job on the boat. He caught a lot of fish. And this is why this is so fun with kids, is you can basically cast anywhere. You're not having to target, a small area where you have to be really good at, casting accurately. The kids can cast anywhere across the flat and then swim their bait across the flat and catch fish. And so, Hunter was just catching fish after fish after fish. He kept me busy for sure, taking fish off the line and helping him land fish. And he did a great job, as I said before. But this is why this is so good. I mean, there you go. That fish is at least 16 inches. That is a keeper sea trout. In this area of Florida, you can keep 3 per person, and they have to be between 15 and 19 inches. You can keep 1 over slot over 19 per boat, which we did this trip. Hunter caught a 22, which is pretty awesome. But as you can see, constant action. There's Hunter's dad there bringing in a fish. As I was measuring this one, putting fish in the box. Just an awesome, awesome day on the water. And anyone can do this, guys. If you have a boat or you rent a boat, you can come down here and do this. It is super easy. Here's a look at some technique as I land a fish here. So you cast out. The better your rod, the more casting distance you're going to get and the more water you can cover. So I recommend having a decent rod for casting. And then as you can see, I just do this little jerk reel, and I'm reeling as I jerk. So jerk reel, and just work my bait across the flats. And then you're going to see the hook up here. I can feel the fish, and then there's the hook set, right? So it's not a massive, reel back and yank as hard as you can. Sea trout have really soft mouths, so you don't want to pull the bait out of their mouth, so you don't want to pull too hard. You just want to get a decent hook set. And this was a nice fish. It just wasn't big enough to be a keeper, but even when you're catching these all day long, guys, kids are going to have a blast because there's constant action. There's constantly something hitting their bait. They're reeling in fish. This is an awesome, awesome thing to do with kids. So as you can see, take a look at this one, and then we decide to throw this one back. When you're on a good bite, you'll sometimes miss strikes, as you can see there, but the fish are so aggressive, they'll come back to it and hit it again. So you don't have to be impatient. As you can see, there it was, a second strike, and I got the hook up. This was a nice fish, 18 inches long, maybe even a little over 18. Great fish. When you're on them, guys, there's nothing better. Another great thing about getting on the water with kids on the flats is you never know what you're going to see. In this case, swimming right at us and then almost right under the boat is a manatee. So we took some time to stop fishing a little bit and just check them out. They even popped their head up and looked at us. How cool is that? You know, when you have good fishing, kids will be excited about all kinds of stuff, and sometimes they get excited about doing things that they see you doing, like getting the fish in the net. And so this is a great opportunity to teach kids how to land fish in nets. Make sure that you're patient, and hey, if you miss one or you lose one, it's really no big deal. But in this case, Hunter got it netted up and did a great job. As a matter of fact, this kind of started a trend where Hunter liked to net the fish and netted a couple of them for me and did a great job. It's just another way to get, kids involved and let them have a good time. They need to experience all of it. And, from playing in the live well and looking at the live bait if you have it, to netting the fish, to releasing the fish. We taught Hunter how to use the fish grippers and release the fish. This fish ended up being keeper number 9. 3 more, and we would be done. They're not all keepers, but that's okay. We'll throw this one back. This was another really nice fish, an upper slot sea trout, and Hunter started to get really good at using the net. It's really fun to watch kids learn and grow when they're on the water. It wasn't all just using the net for Hunter. As you can see, he caught this really nice one, and we worked on landing the fish together. You have to keep them away from the cormorants, which can be a challenge. This was a nice fish right in the middle of the slot, and it was number 12. Hunter had the last fish on the day. I actually joked that he needed to change his name from Hunter to Fisher because he did such a great job. Here's another awesome reason why I love fishing over the grass in Sarasota Bay. Check out that sea turtle. After that amazing day on the water, it was time to head in. Man, I didn't want this day to end. Looks like Hunter and I had a great time. I think Jason and Devin had a good time too. So as you can see, we had a fantastic day on the water. Now let's talk about the gear that we're using to catch these fish. The first thing I'm gonna do is go over rods, reels, and line, and then we're gonna talk about baits. All right, guys, so we're gonna first start off with rods and reels. Let's talk about my favorite, absolute favorite sea trout rod. I fish with this rod the most when I'm fishing for sea trout, and that is the St. Croix Mojo Inshore. This is a 7'6" rod in length, and it is a medium light fast action rod. And I really like this rod. It's got the full cork handles, nice comfortable reel seat, great guides, excellent rod. Now this rod is not inexpensive, right? I think this rod comes in at around $200. So this is not the kind of rod you're gonna want to put in a kid's hands who's never been fishing before, might drop it in the water, might high stick it, which means when you have a fish on, pointing the tip towards the sky so the rod's really bending, it's a great way to snap a rod. These are more for your experienced anglers, right? So if you want something really nice for yourself, these St. Croix Mojo Inshores are awesome. I actually won this rod at our end of year Christmas party for my fishing club. And I did a review on it, guys. So if you want to check it out, I'll put a link right up there where you can check that out. But I really like this rod. I like the 7 to 7.5 foot length because of casting distance, guys. You can really get the bait out there, and you're fishing pretty light bait. We're going to talk about bait in a minute. But great casting distance, good sensitivity, good feel, good bite detection, just an all-around great rod. And what I have on this is a Daiwa Legalis reel, and this is one of my favorite budget reels, right, for saltwater fishing. So even though the rod's $200, this reel I think is like $70. Prices keep changing, guys. I have a hard time mentioning prices because they change, and who knows when you're going to be watching this video. You could be watching this video 5 years after I shoot it, and of course prices are going to be a whole lot different in 5 years. But I really like the Daiwa Legalis reel. Great budget reel, great for sea trout. This is the 2500 size. I like a 25 to 3000, 25 to 30 or 2500 to 3000 size reel. And then I am running 10-pound test, and this is Berkeley X9 braid. So color doesn't matter, and this one I'm running the high vis, doesn't really matter. And then I run a 14-pound monofilament leader, right? I don't run fluorocarbon, I can. But guys, I catch fish all day long. I catch keepers all day long, slot fish all day long with monofilament leader. I don't spend money on fluorocarbon. It doesn't make sense to me. Let's talk about some other rods though, because you might be saying, Kevin, $200 is a little rich for my blood. Let's take a step down. So the next one I use for sea trout is a Toadfish Outfitters, and this is a 7'4" medium light extra fast action rod from Toadfish Outfitters. I really like these rods from Toadfish. They retail for $140 or like $138.99 or something like that, or $139.99, I can't remember, but $140 basically. But right now, as of the making of this video, Toadfish is selling these rods for $99, and I think they're a great deal at $99. For the reel is a 3000 Shimano Symmetry. Shimano doesn't make this reel anymore. I've had this reel for 7 or 8 years. I love Shimano reels. I was a Shimano guy for a long time. Fished almost exclusively Shimano. Now I fish a whole variety of stuff. I'm not really reel exclusive, but I do like the Shimanos. And the modern reel in Shimano's lineup that replaces Symmetry is the Nasky. So if you, or Nasky, I don't know how you say it, Nasci, Nasky. But if you're a Shimano person and you're looking for a decent reel, about $100 reel, $100 to $140 rod, depending on if it's on sale or not, these are fantastic. Great, comfortable reel seats, a little bit different of a design, and then great guides and that kind of thing. The next step down, if you say, Kevin, I like that rod, but it's still a little too much for me, is the Ugly Stick Carbon Inshore. Now, I really like these rods. I think these rods, the price just changed. I think when I bought mine, it was $100. Now I think they're $110. So again, you're right in the same price point as the Toadfish. If it's on sale, it's a little less than the Toadfish if the Toadfish is not on sale. But I really like these Ugly Stick carbons, and they are fantastic rods. I've done a rod review on this one as well. And this is I think, bar none, the best rod Ugly Stick has ever made in terms of, inshore saltwater fishing rods. They are fantastic. They look good. They're comfortable in the hand, and they are super sensitive and super strong. So they do quite well. This one is a 7-foot 6-inch extra fast, and I think it's a medium light, if I remember. Yes, it's a medium light. And again, guys, I'm looking for really, light rods, because in general, what you're targeting in sea trout, at least in Florida, right where I am, slot fish are between 15 and 19 inches long. So I'm not looking to reel in monsters with these rods. I'm looking for the right rod to match the fish. Now, you can also keep one fish per vessel that's over 19, that's over slot. And so on the trip that you just saw, Hunter there caught a 22-inch sea trout. So that was pretty awesome. And he did a great job bringing that fish in. But again, you're not catching huge monster fish. So you want a rod and reel that match the fish. And so in this case, I have paired this up with, this is a Pflueger President XT, which is a great reel. I think it retails, I should have done the research before I shot the video. I think it's around $130, so it's a little bit more expensive reel. I like the more expensive reels, guys, because they're smoother, they perform a little bit better, and they're made of higher quality materials. They're typically lighter weight, and so they perform well and they last longer as long as you maintain them, because salt water corrodes everything. Now I'm going to show you a budget option that I absolutely love. The last rod and reel, guys, that I want to show you is the Penn Pursuit 4 LE. And guys, I bought this as a combo. And so as a combo, I can't remember what this was. I'm going to put it on the screen though, I think, but I'm pretty sure it's less than $100. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see what the current price is of it. And again, prices change, guys, so don't quote me on this. But I love this. So if you want a rod and reel at a budget price that performs really well, the Penn Pursuit 4 is a fantastic rod and reel option. And so this is a 7-foot rod. It's a medium light, and it's a moderate fast action. And I really like moderate fast. So when you see moderate fast, fast, extra fast, it's basically at what point does the rod start to bend? The slower the action, right? The moderate fast will bend lower on the rod, and then the faster and extra fast will bend up higher on the rod. Sea trout have really soft mouths, guys, and so it's very easy on an extra fast action rod like the Ugly Stick and like the toadfish to actually pull the lure out of the mouth. You can, if you do a really hard hook set on sea trout with an extra fast action, you can oftentimes pull the lure right out of the fish's mouth. And so you want to, if you're fishing with some of the extra fast or faster action rods, you're going to want to slow down, ease up on your hook set. If you are a bass fisherman and you watch bass fishermen and they're like, they wait for that and then they set that hook like they're like, trying to, they just wham, like they're swinging for their life, right? That is not the kind of hook set you want in saltwater fishing, right? At least for sea trout. You want just a nice little, I basically just do a nice little whoop, like just a little, pull up on the rod, and that's about all it takes to get a hook set in the mouth of a sea trout. Now, there are other hard-mouthed fish that are going to need a harder hook set, right? So you kind of need to know what you're fishing for. But in general, if you're on the flats and you're targeting sea trout, you don't need a monster hook set. All you basically need is just a little, quick pull up of the rod tip and you're set. A moderate fast action rod will help you ease up on your hook sets if you hook set too hard, right? So if you are a beginner and you are looking for a budget sea trout rod, the Penn Pursuit 4 LE combo, I think, is a fantastic rod. And it's a rod I put in the hands of a lot of people on my boat, because if we're fishing for sea trout and they're hook setting too hard, this is the rod I hand them. All right, guys, so let's talk about line, right? I did mention it when I was talking about the rods and reels, but I'm primarily fishing 10-pound braid. You don't need any more than 10-pound braid on open flats, right? You're not fishing around structure. You're not fishing for overly large fish. 10-pound braid works great. And the reason why I go with 10-pound braid is the bigger the braid, the less distance you get for casting, right? The more friction you have as the lines flow through the guide, and it limits your casting distance. In general, the lighter the line, the farther the cast. And you want to be able to cover more water. These fish are hunting on open flats, right? So the farther you can cast, the farther your bait is getting out there, the more water you can cover, the more chance your bait is going to find that game fish that you want to catch. So 10-pound test, and then I tie it to a 14-pound monofilament leader. And this is just Berkeley trilene monofilament, guys. I buy it by the spool, the 300-yard spool. So if I'm tying a leader that's 2 yards long, right, 6 feet basically, and I have a 300-yard spool, I can get 150 liters out of a single spool of monofilament line. That is so much cheaper than if you are buying fluorocarbon leader material, guys. And I catch fish all day long on monofilament leaders. As a matter of fact, Salt Strong has done a bunch of leader tests, and you can see their results. Those guys fish all the time, and they are recommending that you ditch the fluorocarbon and go straight to monofilament leaders. And I couldn't agree more. It really works well for me. I do have fluorocarbon on the boat, guys, and quite honestly, I do use it sometimes, not because I think it's better than monofilament, but mostly because I'm trying to use it up. I paid for it, and you know, I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm gonna use it. But going forward, guys, I pretty much almost always tie monofilament leader. It's much cheaper and it'll perform just as well. Now, if you are fishing in areas where there's structure, where maybe there's associated oyster beds, or you're fishing up near mangroves, or you are fishing in places where you know that there might be other fish that you want to catch in there besides sea trout, you know, then you might want to up your line to 15-pound test, and you might want to up your leader to, you know, even, you know, 20 or 25-pound leader. But in general, I like to fish light, and then if I'm breaking off all the time, then I will up my leader size, right? And so I carry different spools of line on the boat to change out my leader if I need to. And so if I'm constantly breaking off, I'll ditch the 15-pound leader and go to 20 or 25. The other thing is, guys, is you need to look at your water clarity. So like when we were fishing, as you saw in the video, the water was super clear, right? The clearer the water, the better the fish are gonna see, right? And you don't want them to see your line and leader. So when the water is clear, pare your leader down, go smaller. And when the water is murky and muddy and stirred up and you can't really see, then you can up your leader size without spooking the fish too much. The more pressure an area has for fish, and guys, I fish in one of the most highly pressured areas there is in Tampa and Sarasota Bay, I'd take every advantage I can to try and fool those fish. And so decreasing my line size, my leader size, my hook size, everything, decreasing those sizes so that I'm not spooking the fish and so that my bait looks as natural as possible is the way to go. All right, guys, so let's talk about bait. Now, you can absolutely fish for sea trout with live bait, but then you have to go catch live bait. So if you are cast netting for greenbacks or other live bait, you can do that, or you can go buy shrimp. But what I like to do is just fish artificial lures, right? That way I don't have to waste time going down and hunting bait or spending money to buy bait. All I'm gonna do as soon as I hit the water is I'm gonna start throwing my artificial lures, and I just catch fish. It's not a problem at all. So I highly recommend that you skip the live baiting and that you go straight to artificial bait when you're targeting sea trout on the flats. And basically I fish two types of hooks depending on depth, right? So I'm typically fishing over grass, so I want my bait to have a weedless hook presentation, right? So I'm not fishing, you know, traditional jig heads and that kind of thing. I'm either fishing a weighted weedless hook, or I'm fishing a weedless jig head, right? So let's talk about the weighted hook first. So for the weighted hook, basically what you're gonna do is when you tie it on your leader, you're gonna take the bait, let me see if I can get that focus, there we go. And you're gonna screw the nose of the bait into that screw, right? And then you're gonna run the hook up through the body and then present it as a weedless bait, right? So that is my number one hook to go to in anything up to like maybe 4 feet of water. If I'm fishing grass that's 4 feet, to 1 foot or even shallower, I'm going with a weighted weedless hook. If I'm less than a foot of water, I am probably fishing weightless, and I'm just fishing, a standard, weedless worm hook, one of my bass hooks. I carry those too. But in general, when I'm targeting sea trout, I'm in deeper water anyway. I'm fishing the deeper flats. So I'm anywhere from 3 to 5 or even 6 feet of water over some deep grass. And I'm fishing these, or if I'm really deep, like 4 feet to 6 feet deep, I'm fishing a jig head, right? And so this is a weighted jig head with a weedless hook, right? So I'm just tying that on there, and then I run my bait weedless like I do on the weighted hook, only I'm hooking it through the bottom and then running it up, and then sticking this through the body. And guys, if you haven't seen, I have a video on how to rig a Texas rig, which is a weedless worm hook rig. And I'm gonna put a link right up there. The same way you rig weedless worms is the same way you would rig your paddle tail or your soft plastic weedless on this. So check that out if you haven't seen that on how to rig a weedless soft plastic. It'll definitely help you out. But basically what I do then is I change the size of the head, right, the weight, depending on the depth. But in general, I try to fish as light a weight as possible, but I do want to get the bait down. All right, that's hooks. Let's talk about the baits themselves. So for soft plastic baits, there are primarily 2 baits that I fish for sea trout. The first one is the paddle tail, right? And so paddle tails have a tail that kind of looks like that, right? And when they swim, that paddle wiggles in the water, right? And there's 2 ways to retrieve this. One is to cast out and just do a straight retrieve, like you're swimming the bait through the water, and that'll imitate a bait fish. Or what you can do is you can jerk it along, right? So sometimes I'll do like 2 jerks in a reel, 2 jerks in a reel, or a jerk, reel. I vary my retrieve. And then when fish start hitting it, I take note of, okay, what did I do that time? How was my retrieve? What caused this fish to strike? And then I repeat that and to see if that causes more strikes or if I need to change my retrieve style. So you can just cast this out and swim it. You can fish it slowly. You can fish it, with a little bit greater speed, or you can jerk it or twitch it like we talked about before. The other bait, and the one that I really like, especially if the fish are active, is the jerk bait, right? And that's this guy. It doesn't have a paddle tail. It has this little fork tail, but actually when fish even bite that off, you can fish this even without the tail on it. Sea trout will continue to hit it. But what I really like about these guys is that you twitch them in the water. And so what I do is I go twitch, 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 for the most part. That's primarily what I was doing in the video. And fish will see that, and they'll see this thing darting away, and it'll look like it's darting away from a predator. Well, that triggers a strike in predatory fish. They almost can't help it. They're like, I've got to eat that. That looks so good. It's like a sausage pizza at the end of a hard work day, right? I mean, I just want to eat it. And that is what the jerk bait looks like. So I definitely recommend that you get both of these, right? I carry both of these, right? And I will set up on my boat when I'm fishing with people, especially if they're new. If they don't have the jerk down pat, I give them paddle tails. And I say, hey, start off with a straight retrieve and see what happens. And then if you're not getting anything, try to just jerk your rod every once in a while, and it feels awkward to them at the start, and that's okay. But they'll kind of get the hang of it. And then if we find that they're not hitting on straight retrieves, we switch straight to jerk baits, right? And I mean, you can jerk paddle tails. It's not a big deal. You can, you don't have to switch right away. You can use this one until you wear it out and then switch to this one. But primarily I use both of these types of baits. Now, again, there's a lot of different brands of paddle tails and jerk baits, guys. Most of them perform really, really well. You don't have to buy the most expensive ones. These are both from Salt Strong, because I'm a Salt Strong member now. So I've been trying out their stuff. But I fished Berkeley Gulp, I fished Z-Man, I fished DOA, I fished all kinds of paddle tails. And quite frankly, I get really good results from all of them. Now, the question is, does color matter? Maybe, right? I think for the most part, it's presentation, it's vibration in the water, it's imitating the bait fish that matters more than anything. So I fish a variety of colors, and quite honestly, I don't really have any problems catching fish on any color. So there are people that swear by specific colors. I don't. I really like, so this is the Salt Strong calls this the Slam Shady color, and I've been killing it on this color. But I also fish them in pink, I fish them in chartreuse, I fish them in new penny, I fish them in a natural shrimp color, I fish them in like a silver or gray. I fished them in all different kinds of colors, guys, and I've never really had a problem. If I run out of one color, I'll switch to another color and continue to catch fish. So I think it's more along the lines when the fish are feeding, you can do quite well. There are a couple other lure options though that you can use, and I do this when the fish bite is really slow. Check it out. So guys, when I find I need to fish really slow, I need to slow things down, the jerk baits aren't working, even swimming a paddle tail isn't working, I need to slow things down. For some reason the fish are lethargic. Maybe they're too hot, maybe they're too cold, maybe it's a frontal thing, I don't know. I switch to a shrimp imitation. And this is the prawn from Salt Strong in the same Slam Shady color. And this has also worked really well for me, guys, is basically what I'll do is I'll rig that up. I rig it up the same way. I rig it weedless, and I'll just work that really slow. I'll kind of bounce the jig head off the bottom or bounce the weighted hook off the bottom, or I'll swim it really slow in the water. And in general, everything eats shrimp, guys. So if you have a good shrimp imitation, something that looks like a shrimp, the fish will eat it. So that's a look at the baits I use for targeting sea trout. Well guys, basically that's all my secrets for catching spotted sea trout on the flats on artificial baits. As you can see from this photo, we had a great time on Tuesday. I want to thank my friends Devin and Jason and Hunter for joining me for a great fishing trip. What an awesome time on the water. Guys, if you have any questions about what you've seen in the video or targeting sea trout, or any questions about saltwater fishing in general, or fishing from a pontoon, or whatever, drop some in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, or you can connect with me at my other social media at Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, or my website at campoutside.com. Guys, there are lots of other really good fishing rods, fishing reels, fishing lines, fishing hooks, and fishing baits, right? So you don't have to use the stuff that I use, but you can certainly take a look at what I use and then see what is maybe similar for your use case, right? And if you have a specific bait or rod or line or reel, drop some in the comments below. Let me know what you use to target sea trout. I'd love to hear. I'm always looking for new things to test out. So if you have any tips or tricks, drop something in the comments below as well. But basically, guys, just want to help people get out there and get fishing and get catching. Right? So Camp Outside exists to help moms and dads take their kids camping, hiking, fishing, learn about nature, and develop a conservation ethic. We want to help you get you and your kids outside. There's nothing better than spending a day on the water where you're seeing dolphins and manatees and stingrays and sea turtles and bonnethead sharks, and you're catching fish after fish after fish after fish in a beautiful day on the water. Right? But it takes a little bit to get there, and that's why we produce these videos. We really want to help you get out there and be successful so that your kids start to love to be outside and might just develop a conservation ethic to help conserve these habitats and species I love so much. So guys, that's why we do what we do. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and ring that little bell icon that notifies you when we release new videos so you don't miss a thing. Guys, I'm Kevin with Camp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. Thanks for watching. See you next time.